We're going to be designing on this extra large wagon wheel, and this was only $19.99 from Tractor Supply, and I think this is going to make a huge statement on any wall. What's really nice about it too is that it's not overly heavy. It is solid wood, but it's not as heavy as it may, appear to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a beautiful floral display on one side. So we're going to do kind of like a boomerang effect, and all we're going to use are staples. So this project's going to be nice and easy, and the cool thing about these wheels is that they come in all styles, all sizes, and variations, including metal, wood like we're using today, as well as plastic. We're going to start with this mixed eucalyptus bush. I really like it because it also has the seed heads, and what we're going to do is just remove that tag and keep it in its entirety. So then what we can do is we can come back in with our staple gun. This staple gun has 1/4-inch staples, and this will really keep it secure. And I don't recommend just taking a little bit of hot glue and securing it. I recommend actually stapling it on. So 2 staples just like that will keep it in place, and then what we can do is come back in with more greenery. So there's the first bush. We can take our second bush now. And if you wanted to cut these up individually, you absolutely can. So for instance, if you're dealing with a smaller wheel, just by taking some of these branches and, stapling them individually, you're going to be able to create something a little bit more to scale. But since we have such a large wagon wheel, we're going to take these full-size boughs. So again, just pull back that greenery a bit, take your staple gun, and staple it right on. Now it's time to come back in with our next piece, and notice that these are all going in the same motion. We're going to stop about here and do the opposite motion, and it's going to make more sense a little bit later on, but we're just going to take our staple gun again and staple these branches. If some of your branches are really thick, like the main stem, you can always support it using the thinner branches, and it'll do just the same. So we have 3 in one direction. We're going to do 3 more in the opposite direction. So what you can do is you can just snip off this larger stem. That way you don't see it. Like that. Pull apart those branches, kind of give them a good fluff while we're here, and then just staple them on. Up next, we're going to work in some peonies. So today, I was thinking we can kind of create this wedding themed, which is to keep it white with greenery, but we do have the pink ones available as well, but we're going to use these white ones. So these have really large flower heads, which are going to be great to keep this to scale since we have such a large wagon wheel. So we're going to just take our snippers and snip each flower off individually. That way we can distribute them as evenly as possible. And this one we'll just keep with 2 flowers. Another thing you can do too is actually take this foliage and work it in. So we're not going to have to staple this since we already have that greenery stapled. So those 3 extra leaves I just pulled off, essentially what we can do is just hot glue them right to the existing greenery. So now what we can do is just take the rest of them and work them in. What's really nice about the color palette that we have going on today is that it works for any decor. It works for any wedding. I think this would be a beautiful piece for a wedding, but any home decor as well. Since we're just using a monochromatic color palette with just the greenery, the eucalyptus, which is really trendy at the moment, and some of these white peonies, this works for year-round use in any style. So again, make sure that when you're working these in, you feel it grab onto that existing greenery to keep it from falling off and, prevent the glue from peeling off as well. So we worked in enough peonies. I think what would be nice is to come back in with a little bit more filler material. So here we have these felt flowers, and I like all of the texture that these have. And these are going to be a nice accent, but not take away from the peonies. So with this design, currently with what we have on it, I wouldn't want to work in any larger flowers. The peonies are the showstoppers on this. Everything else should just accent what we've already got. So just break these apart into smaller pieces. And then what we can do is just dip them in our glue skillet, separate the flowers beforehand, and work them in. So same process with these as well. You're going to want to make sure that they have that surface grab. They, hold on to the existing greenery. That way it stays in place. I would never just take hot glue and hot glue it directly to the wood. It would not hold that way. You have to make sure you have some substance or something actually secured to the wood. So see how nice and easy it is using that glue skillet? It really is my favorite tool in my shop. So we're just going to lift, work in those little berries throughout. And some pieces just have grass on it, which is just going to add a lot more texture. And you can never overdo texture when designing. You can overdo color and style, but you can't overdo the texture. Couple pieces left. We'll just cluster them together, dip them in our skillet, and we'll poke these here as well. So that's the finished product. Let me hang this up and show you how it turned out. And here's the finished product. I absolutely love the way it turned out. I love the simplicity of it. And like I said earlier, feel free to choose your own color scheme, flowers that match your own decor. You could also work in a bow. You can also work in a sign. This large wheel is 35 inches across, and it came from Tractor Supply for less than 20 bucks. So you can actually create these very inexpensively. So to hang it, what I've done is I've just placed it on a command strip. That command strip holds a maximum of 10 pounds, and this is definitely less than 10 pounds. So you can also use this outside. You can also place it on a wall, or you can purchase a smaller wheel and use it as a wreath for your front door. Okay, so here we have a black hat. So this is going to be a really easy, inexpensive project that'll be something a little bit different from wreath. So here I just have a standard styrofoam ball. So instead of using a brick of floral foam, I'm just going to take this and cut it in half. So just take a serrated knife and cut it in half. You can actually use both halves for two different designs, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. So we're going to just apply some hot glue on the base of this and secure it to the hat. So I did cut a little bit more off, that way we don't have such a large styrofoam ball. Now we're just going to apply some hot glue, and this tool you may have never seen before if you're new to Hometalk or new to Nick's Seasonal Decor. And if you're not new, you've seen this a million times by now. This is our infamous glue skillet with a bunch of, clutter inside of it, but it still works the same. So we're just going to take that, a very generous amount of hot glue, and then just place it directly on the hat, like so. So here we just have this mixed bush of fall flowers that came from Michael's. We're just going to snip it down and work some of these in. So it's not going to take too much, and I figure about 1/2 to 3/4 of the bush is necessary. And then we can secure some larger flowers. So the beauty of designing this is if you're able to find a straw wreath and you prefer that, by all means use that. If you want to change the colors from orange to yellow, you can do that as well. The beauty comes from whatever colors you want. So if you don't like orange, mix and match. So we're just going to take these, apply a little bit of hot glue, and just poke them directly into the styrofoam. That's what's so wonderful about these, is that, it makes it so easy. It's not complicated. You could have added some, moss to the styrofoam in advance, but we're going to be adding a decent amount of floral material, so it's going to cover it up no matter what. So just continue filling around. And you don't have to cover it up completely because we do have larger flowers, which are going to do a great job of kind of obscuring that foam. So don't feel as though you have to use these big hats. You can also be using summer hats, like those giant, beach or summer hats. I think that would be an awesome idea. You could add a little flamingo to it. We're going to be adding a very simple bow to this design, not creating a super fancy bow, something very simple, and making it look nice. So we'll take one final piece, place it up top, and then what we can do is start using some filler flowers, which happen to be these beautiful peonies right here. So we're just going to snip off a few. We're actually going to cut them away from the greenery because the greenery is a little bit further down since we're creating a smaller scale design. So we'll snip off 3. I'm cutting it at the base of the flower, and then I'm also going to cut off at the base of the greenery. So we can actually take this foliage, move the flowers out of the way, take this foliage and use that to cover up our foam even more so. So you can be using leftovers because this project really doesn't require a whole lot of floral material. Or you can